Um, and Frank, could you go ahead and start the recording if you haven't done so already? A couple of my colleagues are on tonight with us, everyone. And my name is Tom Ehlers. I'm the president and founder of Method Test Prep, and I am excited to be on tonight. I spend a lot of time talking with students, talking with parents, talking with schools, and one thing I find is that many people are not doing a lot with their PSAT results. They're not really sure what is the most effective way to use them, or how they can get some value out of those. So I thought it would make sense to have a webinar, go over some information. And so I will be providing you with a lot of general information tonight. Then we're actually going to look at some of the most common or some of the commonly missed questions from this year's PSAT, both the Wednesday PSAT and the Saturday PSAT, because there are two versions every year. We do have to mute everybody, so we eliminate background noise, but we will be answering some questions. We won't get to all of them. I will be covering, I'm sure, a lot of the questions that people have, and so let's jump right in. Okay, so just a little bit about me, everybody, and what's important to me that you guys know is I spend all day, every day working in schools, working with students, working with parents. So I'm very realistic about how much time the students have to dedicate to SAT and ACT prep, what's realistic, how students benefit the most from this whole process. So I'm not just somebody who sits in a cubicle all day and is kind of out of touch with reality. I actually sat and took the ACT a couple of weeks ago at Bayshore High School with the students and the real exam, and many of us at Method Test Prep do that, so we stay current with the kinds of test questions that students are seeing. So, and just a little bit of humor for tonight, in addition to spending a lot of time helping students prepare for the SAT and ACT, spend a lot of time, those are my twins, they will be turning 5 in 2 days. And no, I have not started tutoring them for the SAT and ACT. In fact, it's 24/7 pirates at my house. My son, if you ask him what he wants to be when he grows up, he says that he wants to be a pirate. I tell him that he needs a lot of geometry to be a pirate, so we work on some basic math skills, but that's it. Instead, what my wife and I spend our time doing, we spend a lot of time reading to them, so check out this SAT cartoon. So hopefully a few of you got a chuckle out of that. I know it's this culture that we live in where everybody is worried and nervous about these exams, and one thing that we are big on at the test prep is to work smarter, not work harder. So no, you don't need to start your SAT prep when you're reading to your kids as they're 5 or 6 years old. All right, so let's get to the serious goal of tonight's webinar, and that is to show you how the PSAT can help you prepare more effectively for the SAT. Go over a few SAT strategies. I hear from a lot of parents and I hear from a lot of educators that it's kind of a pain to try to gather a lot of this information, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. You get that report back from the school, from College Board, with the students' PSAT scores, and a lot of times people don't have a lot of context as to how to understand those results and interpret them. So that's what we're going to do right now. So this is the most important slide to me every time I do a webinar. And so those of you who have been on one of my webinars before, this is going to sound familiar, but every single student can score higher on the SAT and ACT. Most students don't get enough practice. Most students don't get the right prep. If you get the right prep and you practice enough questions, you will do better. These tests, they're not IQ tests, okay? And so it's very frustrating to me that there's a lot of students out there that are demoralized by the SAT and PSAT, that are frustrated. So I just want to share that message that you can improve your scores. Even tonight, I'm going to go over, I hope to have time to go over 8 questions. And I don't know how many of you know this already, but each question you get right on the SAT represents a 10-point increase in your score. So even just jotting down the strategies from tonight, you could see an 80-point improvement on your SAT score. And we all know that's important, means getting into more colleges, possibly more financial aid and scholarship money. So I don't want to make it like the SAT and ACT are the be-all and end-all of a student's life. They're not. But I do want everybody to understand, you put in a little work, you put in a little time, you score higher. So, and one more little chuckle before we jump in. Okay, one of my colleagues found this cartoon on the internet, and I thought that was funny. And I'd certainly work with a lot of students who I do need to give them, a little kick in the butt, a little motivation. So maybe that's just something that everyone can think about. The ramifications of not taking SAT prep seriously. So understanding your PSAT scores, and I hope to simplify this and do this very quickly and efficiently. This is one of the main sections of the report. So many of you have the report with you right now, and you're going to notice you have a 2-digit reading score, 2-digit math, 2-digit writing. All you need to do is put a 0 at the end of each number. That converts it to an SAT score. So for this example, the student has a 540 in reading, a 450 in math, 480 in writing. You all may want to jot this down. The national average on the SAT is about a 500 in each area, give or take a few points. But that just gives you an easy way to think about these numbers. An 800 is a perfect score in each area, right? So 2400 would be a perfect score. A 1500 would be about the national average. So, and notice at the bottom or below those 2-digit numbers that you have the percentiles right there. And that just means what percentage of students that you scored better than. So for this student, you can see that the student's in the 70th percentile for reading, so has scored better than 70% of his or her fellow juniors. And then you can see those numbers for each area. Okay. When people say how much can a student expect to improve, with quality prep, and we provide a lot of different options, I'll go over a few in a little bit, a student can raise their score 150 points, 50 points in each area. Certainly students can go up even more than that, but that's a great first goal. So if I was sitting down with this student, I would say to them, the goal is to go from a 540 in reading to a 590, a 450 in math to a 500, and from a 480 in the writing to a 530. And of course, when we say a 590 in reading, it is nice to get one more question, and then you're talking about a 600. So then you'd have a 600 reading, 500 math. That would be an 1100 on a scale of 1600. And then if you add on the 530, that would be 1630 out of 2400. Okay. Many parents and students will ask, well, what's a good SAT score? If you can score a 600 or better in any area, that's an excellent score, right? So if you had a 600, 600, 600, that would be an 1800 on the SAT. That's an excellent score. Okay, so moving on to, yeah, this is actually interesting, everybody. I don't know how many of you noticed this already, but underneath the 2-digit number they give you, you see that the College Board gives you a range. So I know it's a little small here, but you can see in the reading, it actually says 50 to 58, below the 54. What the College Board is telling you is that's the range you can expect to score in. And the reason I find that interesting is I don't like how students think of the score they get as a set-in-stone number. In fact, it's a range. So if a student scored a 500 in reading or a student scored a 580, the College Board almost sees that as statistically insignificant, not very significant. It's just a few questions here or there. But students will make a big deal out of that. So, for example, I was with a student today, and the student went down 40 points from one practice exam to another. That's a statistically insignificant amount. The more important thing is the student is putting in the time now and getting himself ready for the January SAT, ultimately he is going to score higher, but I don't want students getting caught up in a 10 or 20 point swing up or down. That's not the right way to think about this test. So it is interesting to me that the College Board puts it right there. It's a range that you're scoring in. With practice, that range will increase. Okay, and just to reiterate, this student is projected to score anywhere from a 1350 to a 1590. So that's a pretty big range there, which that's what the College Board is telling you. And the ACT works the same way. Okay, and some people are confused by this. You're going to notice that the College Board gives you a selection index. That's just the sum of your 3 scores. So for this student, it's a 147, would be a 1470. And once you put the 0 on the end, that's the score out of 2,400. Okay. As far as the National Merit Scholarship, people talk about this a great deal. So students who score between 200 and 210 are usually commended. And then if you score over a 210, then you're usually in contention for a National Merit Scholarship. They are very difficult to earn. Even if you score incredibly high on the PSAT, you may not earn a National Merit Scholarship. So I don't like to emphasize this scholarship. There are many, many other scholarships. What I like to emphasize to students is no matter where you start, okay, you can go up significantly from there. So if you're a little demoralized or discouraged by your PSAT score and you're not anywhere close to these numbers, don't be discouraged. Most students are not. It's a starting point, and you can go up from there. Okay. So using your scoreboard and test to prepare for the SAT intelligently, let's move on to this next part. Okay. So just to summarize, the PSAT is a very important first step. I want students taking the PSAT, and by the way, if you're a parent or an educator thinking about having 10th graders take the PSAT, that's fine with me. But what I don't like is students who really focus on the PSAT in 10th grade and they either don't take the PSAT in 11th grade or kind of don't take it as seriously in 11th grade. It's much more important to me where a student scores in 11th grade because the results are a lot more recent, and we can learn a lot more from those. So, and you see there, to increase your score by 150 points, just answer 4 more questions per subject correctly. Okay. Notice this last. Let me get my drawing tool out here, everybody. Notice this last point. The SAT is predictable. You will improve if you learn from your mistakes. This is one of the best things we all have going for us. The SAT is extremely predictable. It has to be. So the questions I'm going to show you, it almost becomes comical that they're just going to repeat this stuff on every single exam. The January SAT are going to have these same concepts, March SAT, May SAT, and June SAT. So I love how predictable this test is. It means that we can really make a difference and achieve our goal. Okay, so as far as focusing on weaknesses, the good news is the College Board makes it easy to identify weaknesses. So you will notice a section of your PSAT report, and it shows you a bunch of bars. Where you see more white than black, that indicates a weaker area. So you just simply find the areas that have more white. Those are the areas you want to go to a teacher about, go to a tutor, maybe talk to another student, and work on those types of questions. Okay, and obviously on our web-based program, we have questions and lessons that address all of these areas. And so notice the point here, look for easy and medium level questions to review. One of the first things I say to students about how to use your PSAT is I go ahead and find the 5 easiest math questions that you missed, 5 easiest reading, and 5 easiest writing. They identify questions as either easy, medium, or hard. So see if you missed any of the questions labeled E for easy and work on those. And then see if there aren't any of those, and see if you missed any of the medium level questions. What I find is typically when I sit down with a student and I have them retry the 5 easiest math questions that they got wrong, they typically get 3 or 4 of them right on their own. And with that, then I can look at that student and say, your score just went up by 30 or 40 points, and I haven't taught you anything yet, just from clearing up those minor mistakes. So, a lot of times in life we call that low-hanging fruit. We've got to grab that low-hanging fruit, because that could be a 100-point improvement on your score just from improving on those easy and medium level questions. So that's something that you can work on tomorrow. It will only take you 20 minutes. Open up your PSAT, find the easiest ones you missed, rework on those questions. I bet you'll find that you get a bunch of them right on your own without anybody's help. Okay, and of course you can start using Method Test Prep Online. I know many of you already have access through your school, and I'll talk about that in a minute if you're not sure or if you don't. Okay, so let's jump right into a question, and I was excited to do, one of the reasons I was excited to do this webinar is to show everybody questions from this year's PSAT. And there was a PSAT on Wednesday and a PSAT on Saturday. I'm going to show questions from both, but it just reiterates every year that they really don't change this test, and we really can prepare. So go ahead and read this question to yourself as I read it out loud. If x is an integer such that 2 is less than x is less than 8, and a triangle has sides of 2, 7, and x, how many possible values are there for x? Okay, now this is rated at least a medium question. It's wordy. Sounds can be a lot to digest. Well, the first thing is they tell us x is an integer. That's good news. Just means x is a whole number. And then they tell us that x, a lot of students don't like this notation. Just means x is between 2 and 8. So we can use any whole number between 3 and 7. Okay, and we have to figure out that third side. So how many possible values are there for x? Well, the good news is, guys, there's a rule for this question. And it's probably a rule you've learned in school. You can memorize this rule, and then you'll get this question right every single time. So I love when I get this question because it's so predictable and I just have to apply my rule. So here's the rule, and you are going to get a recording of this webinar tomorrow. So you'll have the rule and the recording. You can watch this webinar, at least this part of the webinar, you can watch the night before you take the SAT. You can review these rules, but you can also jot this rule down. 2 sides of a triangle, when added together, must add up to be more than the third side. So that's the rule. And let me go back to this question. And simply what we would do is we would draw the triangle, we would put in the 2 and the 7, and then we would ask ourselves, could the third side be 3? But then you think about the rule, 2 sides when added together have to be more than the third side. So the answer is no, because 3 and 2 only up to 5. So 3 is out. Could the third side be 4? Well, again, the answer is no. 4 and 2 is 6. And 6 doesn't add up to be more than 7. And then could the third side be 5? Again, the answer is no. It can't equal. The 2 sides can't equal the third side. They have to be more than. So 5 is a no. Could the third side be 6? Well, yes, because 6 plus 2 is 8. That's more than 7. 7 plus 6 is 13. That's more than 2. And then 7 plus 2 is 9. That's more than 6. So any 2 sides have to be more than the third side. So 6 is a yes, and then 7 is going to be a yes, right? 7 and 7 more than 2. 7 and 2 more than 7. 7 and 2 more than 7. So either 6 or 7 are possible answers, and that's why the correct answer here is B, 2. Now, I went through that question kind of quickly, so if you need to hear that one more time, then you can watch just that little piece of the recording whenever you have a free minute. Let's move on to the next question, everybody. And just to give so that was from the Wednesday PSAT this past year. This was a question that many students had trouble on from the Saturday PSAT. And it's more fun for you guys if I give you a chance to try this question first. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to give this question a shot, and then I'm going to open up a poll question, and you can choose which answer you think is correct. Okay? Go Go ahead and work on this for about 1 minute. Give it your best shot. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the poll. If you have an answer already, go ahead and put it down. And if you're not 100% sure, do what you should always do on the SAT, which is narrow it down and then take your best guess. Just in case you haven't heard the rule, on the SAT, you should leave it blank if you can't narrow it down. You should take a guess if you can narrow it down. So hopefully on this one, if you're not sure the answer, at least you've narrowed it down. Okay. Okay. And if you're using an iPad, you may not be able to answer the poll. But so if you can't answer the poll for some reason, just keep the answer in your head or on a piece of paper. Okay. Just going to wait for a few more votes. I think a few people are still working. Okay, 5 more seconds. Get your vote in. All right. We had 58, 59, 60% of you vote. So I'm going to close that up. And I'll have a little suspense here. Okay, keep the answer you had in your head. So this is a very repetitive question, and there's a very simple strategy. How many 4-digit integers greater than 4,000 contain each of the digits? So one strategy that I like for this question is simply to write it out. I'm going to start, I can't put a 2 first because that's not going to be greater than 4,000, or 2,000, or 4,000, excuse me. So I'll start with 4,268. Okay, and I'm just going to just be careful to go in order. So I can also have 4,286. So I'm going from smallest to biggest. There are no other ways to start with a 4 and a 2. So now I'll start with a 4 and then a 6. 4,628. 4,682. So now I've taken care of the two numbers that are 4, 6. And then 4,826. And 4,862. And then I take a second, I ask myself, are there any other ways I can make a number with a 4 in the thousands place? But the answer is no. I've used them all up. So now there are 6 numbers that start with a 4. And to save myself time, I can quickly see that with a 6, there's going to be the same 6 numbers. And then starting with an 8, they're going to be the same 6 numbers. So it's really 6 times 3, and 6 times 3 is 18. The only downside to this strategy is people think it takes too long, but I would rather take the strategy that is easier for me to use, that may take a few extra seconds, than the shortcut that it may be easy to make a silly mistake or a simple mistake. So I really like this strategy. This would be plan A for me, but one of our jobs as people who help students with the SAT and ACT is to give a second option. So the second option, the shortcut, would be this. You can put 4 dashes down on your paper. Anytime they ask you how many 4-digit anythings, or anytime you have 4 places, the number you put in each dash is the number of choices that can go in that dash. So how many choices do we have for the first dash? Well, we can put a 2, or excuse me, we can put a 4, a 6, or an 8. So we have 3 choices. I'm going to put a 3 in that first spot. And then the second spot, how many choices do I have left? Well, I can't use whatever number I used in the first spot. So if I use the 4 here, I can't use a 4 again because it says the number has to contain each of the digits. So I could use a 2, or I could use a 6, or I could use an 8. So again, I have 3 choices. And then how many numbers are left that could go here? Well, just the 2 left over. And then how many numbers would be left to go in the last spot? Just the 1. Okay, and on these questions, you always multiply. Some students ask, when do you add, when do you multiply? You always multiply. So we go ahead and put the times there, and you multiply, and of course, you're going to get 18. So 2 completely different ways of getting 18, so choice C is correct. And if that explanation did not make sense, go ahead and watch it again tomorrow or later this week or before your test. Okay, I do want to give everybody a chance to participate again. Question for you now. Do you have access to methodtestprep.com through your school? So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. Just please read all the choices carefully. So yes, you have access through Career Cruising. Yes, you have access through Castle Learning. Yes, through Method Test Prep directly. That means that you can just go right to methodtestprep.com and log in. No, but we do, as a family, pay for an individual account. And then, or no, I do not have an account at this time. Okay, just 10 more seconds, please. I just want to get a sense of if students are using Method Test Prep already, if they know if they have access. Okay, and now most of you had a chance to vote, and just as I was hoping, at least half of you do have access to Method Test Prep through your school. If you're not sure, go ahead and talk to the guidance office of your school. They will know. Families can purchase individual accounts to our program. It's $40 for the month if your school does not provide access. And if you have any questions about that, you can go to our website or give us a call or an email. Okay, and most of you have had a chance to vote now. And then one last question before I move on to my next example. And that, actually, you know what? Let's just jump on to the next question. We'll open up another poll in a second. So we've now had a chance to do, okay, I just wanted to break up the webinar, everybody. So thought this one was funny. There's a strategy that's not going to work so well unless you're really good at reading upside down. Okay, let's get back to work. So obviously this is a sentence completion question from the reading part of the SAT. This is from the Wednesday PSAT this year. The strategy for sentence completion questions is simple. Read the sentence, decide what kind of words you would put in a blank, then look for a choice that fits your idea best. And often, you don't need to decide exactly what words you want to blank. You just need to decide if they're positive or negative. So here's my question for everybody. Read this sentence to yourself, and then decide if you want a positive word or a negative word in the first blank, and then a positive word or a negative word in the second blank. Go ahead and try that now.
Hey, Tom, I don't think your screen is shared right now.
Oh, do I need to? Sorry. It says sharing screen. Did that fix it, Elliot, or no?
No, I still can't see the screen.
Okay.
I can see it.
Oh. So, Frank, are you able to see this example now?
Yes. The critics' review of Hollister's latest novel.
Yep. Okay. If you're having trouble viewing this question, everybody, if you're having trouble viewing this question, just go ahead and type that in so we can determine if most people are able to see it or not. And while we're getting that sorted out for any folks who can't see this question, I put that question out there. Do you want positive or negative each blank? And this was a tough question. I've gone over this question with a lot of students, and you want 2 negative words. Now, a couple of clues. First of all, when they say critics, critic doesn't always have to be negative, but often it's kind of a clue word that it's going to be some kind of negative sentence. And then you see that I boxed even the most devoted. The point of the sentence is it's something like the critic's review of his latest novel. It was quite negative, predicting that the book would prove to be like a chore. I want something like chore in here. Definitely want a negative word for even the most devoted of his fans, even the people who loved his books the most. So we want 2 negative words, and you start going through the choices, and laudatory is a positive word. Any word with the root of laud is a positive word, okay, like applause, for example. So that's going to help us get rid of choice A, which is key because ordeal would have fit perfectly, and that was a trick answer. Then you have the word lark. When you do something on a lark, you just do it on a whim. You didn't really plan it. Okay, it's not really a positive or negative word, but it's certainly not a negative word. A banquet, so that choice is out. A banquet is just a big feast, okay? For those of you like me who love to eat, that's definitely not a negative word. And then a repast is also a meal. Okay, so that's going to eliminate that choice. Now, I understand the vocabulary in this question was difficult, and that's why we have a vocabulary builder section of our website that I encourage every student, you got to memorize as many words as possible. But you eliminate as many as you can, and then you're left with just choice D. Choice D is the correct answer.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people still can't see. This was Wednesday PSAT Section 1, Question 7, if you do have your booklet. Elliot suggested maybe stopping the screen share and then restarting it to see if maybe that will fix the problem.
Okay, got it. Okay, good idea.
Sorry, folks. And maybe try the stop on GoToMeeting as well.
Yeah. Okay. And I apologize, everybody. It's frustrating because we use these platforms a lot. What's that?
It's back now.
Okay. All right, everybody, apologize again. We use these platforms a lot, and they're the best ones out there, but they are not foolproof. And but I'm glad folks can see the screen now. Let me hide this webcam. So, so for those of you who couldn't see the screen for a little while and now can see my notes, hopefully from what as I talked, and you can see the notes here, made sense that we wanted 2 negative words. Caustic means very harsh, very biting. So caustic, a caustic review would be a very negative one. And then a trial, many words have multiple definitions. So there could be you could get a Netflix trial, but you could also go through a trial, like the trial of trying to, trial of trying to get out dig out from a hurricane or something like that, a very negative, difficult experience. So choice D is the only choice with 2 negative words, and that's what the SAT was looking for on this question, for students to break down the sentence and figure out you wanted 2 negatives. So that was an example from the Wednesday PSAT. I have an example here from the Saturday PSAT, and this was an easier question, but the reason that I picked this one for tonight is I want everybody to understand that there's a very common question type on the SAT, and I promise you're going to see a bunch of these on your exam. They give you a blank, and then they give you a piece of punctuation, and then they give you a definition as to what goes in the blank. So even if you may find this example pretty easy, there's going to be many questions just like this one, and I want you to look for, okay, if there's a blank and a piece of punctuation, and then what comes after the punctuation is going to be the definition of what you want in the blank. No others have been so well liked. So we want something that's very well liked. Okay, and so then the best choice is popular. Okay, I think qualified was one of the trick answers. Definitely a positive word, but it doesn't fit as well with the words that come right after the piece of punctuation. So when I saw this question from this year's PSAT, and I said to myself, this is a skill that we want to, or this is a strategy that we want to make sure students are looking out for. Okay, so let's go ahead to a writing/grammar question. Okay, and many of you may know this, but if you don't, actually you might want to jot this down. 70% of your SAT writing score is based on the multiple choice grammar questions. So people talk about the essay a lot, but the essay is only 30% of your score. So good news about grammar, they test you on the same 11 grammar rules over and over again. So you can get used to those 11 rules and you can make a huge difference, an improvement on your SAT score. Go ahead and give this one a shot for 30 seconds, and then I'll open up a poll so everybody can participate and take a shot at this one. Okay, let me open up this poll. Give it your best shot. And remember, on these questions, if you feel there's no grammatical error, then that's when you choose E, no error. All right, most of you have had a chance to vote. 3 more seconds. Okay, nice job. Many of you got this one correct. It was A. Okay, and why? This is subject-verb agreement. It is the most common rule tested, grammar rule tested on the SAT. So the subject is leaders. Okay, that's a plural subject, right? It's more than one. There's an S at the end of the word. If it's a plural subject, then you do not put an S at the end of the verb, right? And if that sounds confusing to some people, just give yourself a simple example. Do you say the boys runs or the boys run? Of course you say the boys run, and that's why it has to be leaders hope. Now, the SAT purposely puts in this prepositional phrase here, okay? As soon as you see a word like of, the words that follow of are not the main subject of the sentence. So if nation was the subject, the nation hopes would be fine, but it's not. Leaders is the subject. Okay, so this is subject-verb agreement. We can just abbreviate that as SV agreement. And whether you got this question right tonight or not, really look out for this rule. It's going to be on your SAT. It's going to be on your ACT. In fact, there's going to be multiple questions that test you on this one rule. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to a Saturday grammar question. Again, give this one a shot, and then I'll open the poll.
Tom, I think we're having the same issue again. Can you try unsharing and resharing?
Yep. Must be, for some reason, the polls aren't working. Okay, I just did that for GoToMeeting. Did that solve the problem?
Yep. Yep, it's working now.
Okay. Okay, let me open up this poll. Actually, you know what? For this question, everybody, just shout it out. I'll listen. I'm just kidding. I can't hear you guys, so let me open up another poll. Which choice is correct? Okay. I'm impressed. Most of you got this one correct. Okay, the answer is B. And if you got this one correct, or if you had trouble with this question, the reason why, if you got it correct and you weren't sure, the reason why is should have. Okay, so should of is never correct. They're trying to fool you when you have that contraction, should have, right? So that would have been fine. But that's not it. Should of is never correct. So guys, if you ever see something like should of, then you know that's the error. It should be should have. Okay, let's move on to another. So those are two Wednesday examples. Let's move on to two Saturday examples. Okay, give this one a shot. And I'll launch this poll. Okay, this was a little trickier. The answer is going to be D. Why D? That's the error. It's more subtle or just subtler. Nice simple rule, everybody. You never use more with an ER word. In fact, you never modify an ER word. So bigger, faster, anything like that. You never say more, bigger, more, faster. So more subtler, you can either just say subtler or more subtle. Either one would be correct. So the error here is D. So that's a good one to look out for on your SAT this spring. And let me use that trick again here and unshare and then share my screen. Okay, so let me know if you can't see this one, but this question is the survey showed. Give this one a shot. All right, launch this poll. Give it your best shot. All right, thanks. Most of you have had a chance to vote. This was, the answers were all over the place, but many of you did get this from correct choice C. And the reason why it's C, it would have to be then there were last year. And the reason why is job openings is the subject of this part of the sentence. And it's helpful. A little strategy is to not even read, again, the prepositional phrase. So for recent college graduates is just a prepositional phrase. So now we can read it as, the survey showed that nationwide there are more job openings this year than there were last year. Okay, job openings, is plural. So since that's plural, we need to use a plural verb, and that plural verb is were. Okay, so it's just amazing how much subject-verb agreement comes up. You pick up any PSAT or ACT, it's just again and again, so that's something that we can all be prepared for. Okay, let me try unsharing my screen and sharing it again, and move on to the next slide here. Okay, and this was an example actually from last year, and you guys have given me a lot of time, a lot of attention, so I don't want to keep you on too much longer. I'm going to skip this example. this one as well. And so students say to us all the time that hey, that was helpful. What would be a smart next step? So as far as scoring higher on the SAT, one smart next step is we are holding a series of SAT mini classes. They're coming up from January 20th to January 23rd. Okay, the link is there, and that will give you all the information. Let me switch over and show that online. So we offer a number of live online classes. Tonight, we only had time to do 8 questions. Obviously, we talked about a lot of general information. So these classes that we offer, we're able to go into a lot more detail. So one that would be most appropriate for you folks who are on this webinar tonight is we offer a series of classes, and each class is just an hour and a half long. So it's not I know many of you are very, very busy, don't necessarily have time to sit in a 3-hour SAT class. So each class is an hour and a half. You can take the class right from home. Okay, we go over many strategies and techniques. We're able to spend more time than we were tonight. And you can see there's something for everybody here. So for example, there's an SAT advanced math class. If you're already scoring pretty high on the math portion, you're pretty strong, you just want to learn some strategies for the hard questions. Okay, that class is going to be on January 23rd from 8 to 9:30. Okay, the class is $50. Many students sign up for all 4. We do offer a discount on all 4. It's $150 for all 4, so you save $50. Okay. And again, if you're interested at all, you can just go to methodtestprep.com. Okay, you can click on the live online classes. Okay, click there, and then you can scroll through and see a lot of different choices. Okay, and here are the SAT mini classes, which again, those are coming up pretty soon. Actually, next week. So next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Perfect for students taking the January SAT on the 25th, or taking a test later on this spring. We do record all of these classes, so you can watch the class again. So once you register for the class, you have that recording for a lengthy amount of time, so you can watch the recording a couple of times. So again, if you have any questions about that, you can email us, you can call us. Okay. Oh, and for folks on this webinar tonight, we are offering a discount. It's 15% off. So when you go to this page and you click on SAT mini classes, okay, and let's say you want to do the All Access Pass, there is a field for promo code, and if you type in 15 and then the word OFF, OFF, no spaces, capital, and then you just hit apply promo code. Okay, you will notice that you now have 15% off the cost of the class. Okay, so again, that's 15 OFF in capitals, and you'll have 15% off the class. Okay, let's go back to the webinar, everybody. So just to summarize real quick, the PSAT is a great resource. Even just the 8 questions we went through tonight, those are going to appear again, but you've got to use it. So open it up, look for the easiest questions that you got wrong, retry those questions, okay, get a teacher or a tutor or a friend or a parent to go over some of those easiest questions, and it's a very eye-opening experience. I've seen it with a lot of students because they start to realize, wow, I really can improve a lot on this test. These numbers are not set in stone, and with some small tweaks, some small improvements, I can make a big difference on my score. Okay, many of you indicated that you did have access to Method Test Prep. That's our simple checklist that you can follow. We break all the work into 15-minute tasks. Okay, so if you haven't started using your checklist already, many schools make it available to every student. Then that's a really low. Won't take you a ton of time. We ask an hour a week. can make a big difference in your score, will make a big difference. Okay, we have video explanations on there. We have review packets for you to study. Okay, so one last poll question, everybody, if you don't mind, is I'm curious how many of you out there are interested in possibly taking one of our online classes. So let me open up this poll. Okay, so are you interested in taking one of our live online classes? Okay, just indicate yes, no, or maybe, but tonight was the first time you heard about it. It is difficult for us to get the word out. Many families, students, and even educators are not really aware that we're doing them. So, okay, most of you have had a chance to vote, and for most of you the answer is yes or maybe, but this was the first time you were hearing about it. So let me go ahead and close that poll. And I'm going to unshare and then share, because I just want to leave you guys with one slide in case you have. Oh, and there's that slide. Each additional question correct is 10 more points. On the ACT, each additional question correct is an additional point. So the news is just as good on the ACT. Get through a few more here. Oh, that's the one I wanted. So there's our contact info, everybody. If you have any questions, okay, my email is there, phone number is there. Of course, you can just visit our website. We have a lot of information on our website. I should point out that we do have a number of free webinars coming up. We have an ACT week coming up. So let me just end the presentation tonight with that. Okay, if we go to our homepage, so you see join us for ACT week, January 29th to February 4th. We're going to offer 5 free online webinars, okay? And all you need to do to register for those, and if you can't be on live, okay, register anyway, and you'll get a recording. So just so I'm being clear, which nights they are and what topics each night, we're doing a general things to know about the ACT on Wednesday, January 29th. Okay, from 9 to 9:45. Matter of fact, all of the classes are going to be 9 to 9:45. And then you can see Monday, February 3rd, ACT English. Tuesday, February 4th, ACT Math. And then Wednesday, ACT Reading. And Thursday, ACT Science. So I'd encourage all of you to register for all 5 of these. And if you can be on live, great. If you can't be on live, then register anyway and you'll get the recordings. Share this information with your friends. Share it maybe with any teachers at school, because we've had a lot of folks on our free webinars and the feedback has been very, very positive. Alrighty, you've listened to me blab long enough. Have a great night. Good luck with your studying the rest of this school year. And come back to anothertestprep.com if you're ever curious about anything on the SAT or ACT. If you can't find the answer on the website, then reach out to us, email or phone number. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good night.